Have you ever had that feeling? That sudden, really disorienting sense that the world is just spinning out of control? It's a deeply unsettling sensation, and for a lot of people, it's a frustrating, constant part of life. So today, we're going to dive into what that feeling really is, and more importantly, the science behind finding relief.
Just think about it for a second. Have you ever been in bed and found yourself, consciously avoiding turning to one side because you know it's coming? That awful, lurching, spinning feeling that can just totally ruin a moment of rest?
Or maybe you catch yourself slowing down, being extra careful, avoiding turning your head too fast, all just to keep the world from tilting on you. If any of this is starting to sound familiar, you are definitely in the right place.
Okay, so let's get right to the heart of it. We hear the word vertigo thrown around a lot, but what does it actually mean? Let's break it down.
What's so important to understand is that vertigo is a very specific kind of dizziness. Yeah, we usually think of it as spinning, but it can also feel like you're tumbling or rocking or swaying, even when you are perfectly still. It's the false sensation of movement, and it feels completely real.
And here it is. This is probably the single most crucial point we're going to talk about. Vertigo itself isn't the problem. It's a symptom. It's just a word to describe what you feel, not what's actually causing it. Being told you have vertigo is kind of like a doctor saying you have a fever. Okay, but why?
And because it's so often misunderstood, the impact it has on your daily life can be just huge. It's not just a physical sensation. It's something that can slowly, quietly start to shrink your entire world.
It often starts really subtly. You might just find yourself being a little more careful, right? Avoiding those sudden turns or just moving more deliberately to feel secure on your feet. Then it can creep into your moments of rest. Maybe you learn to stop rolling onto a certain side in bed because you know it's the trigger for that spinning and it completely disrupts your sleep.
And eventually, that constant unsteadiness just eats away at your fundamental sense of security. I mean, when you can't trust your own balance, you start to feel vulnerable, not just out in the world, but even in your own home.
And the result of all of this? It's a heavy emotional toll. It really adds up. That constant feeling of being off balance leads to very real anxiety, frustration, and just discouragement. It's absolutely exhausting, and it can take a serious toll on your mental health.
But here's where the story takes a turn for the better. Because understanding the problem is one thing, but finding the solution? Well, that starts with one critical step: figuring out the actual cause.
Right. This is the question that truly matters. If vertigo is the smoke, where in the world is the fire coming from?
Well, the answer, as it turns out, is pretty complex. The source of the problem could be in your inner ear, or maybe the nerve connected to it. It could even be certain conditions affecting the brain, or, surprisingly, your heart. And each one of these things requires a completely different approach to fix.
And this is exactly why trying to self-diagnose from a YouTube video or a blog post can be such a huge gamble. A head maneuver that works perfectly for one inner ear issue could be completely wrong for another one. Or worse, totally inappropriate for a brain-related condition. You have to know the why before you can figure out the how.
So let's look at how all this builds toward a real effective solution. Because for many of the most common causes, especially the ones related to the inner ear, there is a clear scientific path to relief.
I just love this way of putting it. It cuts right through all the confusion. We're not talking about wishful thinking, and we're not talking about medication that just masks the symptoms. We are talking about proven, evidence-based methods that actually address the root of the problem.
So what does this good science look like in practice? Well, it usually falls into two big categories. First, there are specific head maneuvers, which are designed to fix a mechanical problem inside the inner ear. And second, there are tailored exercise programs that retrain your brain, your eyes, and your body to all work together again, helping you rebuild your balance and your confidence.
Now, to make this really concrete, let's look at one of the single most common causes of vertigo. It has a super long name, but the explanation is actually pretty simple.
Okay, let's break this down, because the explanation is actually fascinating. So, deep inside your inner ear, you have these teeny tiny crystals that are absolutely essential for your sense of gravity. With BPPV, some of these microscopic crystals get knocked loose and wander into a part of the ear where they just don't belong. So when you move your head, they roll around and send all these confusing signals to your brain. And that is what triggers that intense spinning. So what happens if you just wait it out? Well, it's pretty much a roll of the dice. The data shows that after 1 month, only about 20 to 30% of people have recovered on their own.
After 3 long months of being dizzy every day, maybe half of people feel better, but that means the other half are still suffering.
Now compare that waiting game to this number. With the correct repositioning maneuvers done by a trained professional, the success rate for this exact condition is over 90%, and that relief often comes within just a few sessions. This isn't just a small improvement. For so many people, it is a life-changing difference.
So in the end, while vertigo can feel like this frustrating, endless battle, the real story here is one of hope. Understanding the true cause opens the door to a clear scientific solution. It's a story that can move from feeling stuck and anxious to one of relief and regaining control. So the only question left is, are you ready to turn the page?